Ever since I've moved back to Costa Rica in 2010, my dad and I have been developing a Sunday brunch tradition. We'll get together on Sundays and we'll have a simple breakfast at his house with whoever's available from my siblings or my stepmom or my step-siblings. We'll all gather to spend some time, catch up, and see each other. Unfortunately, I've noticed in the last couple of years that my dad spends most of our Sunday brunch browsing the newspaper on his iPad. We will ask him, please, let's just spend this time together. He'll acquiesce, he'll put the iPad away. And then when the conversation just isn't interesting anymore, he'll pick up the iPad and leave us again. I think it's really hard to disconnect, especially in the world we're living right now. There are breaking news headlines every 10 minutes. And there is so much temptation to be in that digital world, up to date with everything that's going on, or disconnected from everything that's going on. Our guest today, Serena, brings this question to us. How do I disconnect? How do I create a space where we can be together as a family, where we can be together as friends, and away from that digital universe? I think this is a really important question for the times we're living in. I'm Mauricio Bruce, and this is The Real Question. Hi, Serena.
Hi, Mal.
Welcome to the show.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you.
I want to be transparent in saying that you and I have met before.
We have, yes.
Never in person, just virtually, because you were part of the What Matters cohort.
Yes.
We've been in class together, and it's so nice to see you again. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to get to see you again.
So we've been doing this question. We've been trying out this question, Serena, that I'm trying to ask all of our guests. Mm-hmm. The question is this. If I were just meeting you and you could tell me anything about yourself, what would you share?
What I would share about myself if we were just meeting is it's kind of two parts, which is that one, I love gossip.
Oh.
I love if anyone tells me anything, I want to know everything. But the other thing about me is that I'm really good at keeping secrets.
Oh.
So if you have gossip, you can tell me, and I actually won't tell anyone if you tell me not to.
Okay. I sort of love knowing that about you now.
If you have any secrets, yeah, like after, you can tell me secrets when we're done recording. I'll keep them.
I want to know what we're talking about today, Serena. What is the question that you're bringing to the show?
The question that I am bringing is, should I start a secular but spiritual Sabbath practice?
A secular but spiritual Sabbath practice. So I'm going to ask you to sort of expand that for me. Explain what that means to you.
Sure. Partially, I just want to get off my phone. I want to be away from my phone. I want to be away from technology. But I want that space to be filled with something else. Like, I know people do tech Sabbaths, but I don't want that. I don't want there to just be some time in my week where I'm putting my phone away. I want to fill that space with something that feels meaningful and connecting, and like I'm doing something not religious, but with ritual and with meaning and with intention.
Okay. So just for me to be clear, this is not just about technology. It's not just about unplugging or disconnecting. There's a deeper search there.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
So I'm going to put the technology part away for now. We can come back to it. But I'm interested in that thing that you're looking for underneath. You said meaning and that you wanted to have some kind of ritual, although you're not looking for religion. You don't want it to be religious. You're looking for something that's more secular.
I mean, I don't want it to be religious because I was not raised with a religious practice. And so it's not like I'm suddenly going to convert and start taking part in all these other practices. And yet there is something about, I think a lot about, what do religious rituals do, right? They bring us together. They make us stop in our lives and pause and think about what is meaningful to us, what matters to us. We gather with the people who we care about the most. And I guess that's maybe spirituality to me.
Yeah. So there's two pieces to that. One is, you mentioned it multiple times, it brings us together, it gathers community, it gathers us with the people that we care about. And then the second one was pause. It helps us pause. You want a pause from ...
Should I fill in the blank?
Yes.
I want to pause from, first of all, the ins and out of every day. That, like, I'm actually I really like routine. I love it. I thrive on it. But a time that is set apart from routine that feels like maybe more intentional or not doing the same thing every day. I think a pause from perseverating about the state of the world, a pause from the way that, like, work always feels like it's there. There's always something I could be doing. I could be doing work. I'm also in a graduate program. So, like, there's always something I could be doing. So if I'm putting some parameters up that is like, that is not what this time is for, but that feels different from just like, oh, I'm going to have a glass of wine to watch a movie. Something that feels more set and intentional than that.
When you imagine that space, what do you imagine that space looks like? Is it a whole day? Is it an evening? Is it a couple of hours? Is there a specific activity that you guys do? Is there more open, free space? Is there a meal? I'd rather you not think about it as much as feel it. Like, which one of those feels like it would be the right one? You're like, oh yeah, I want a meal with my family, or, you know.
It feels like an evening. It feels like a meal. Maybe something that goes on like before or after the meal. Or maybe there's something specific about the meal or who's invited or something that feels more intentional than everybody just sitting down.
Yeah, it's not just Wednesday night dinner. This is a special dinner that you're putting together, or a special meal. It doesn't even have to be dinner, but a special meal that you're putting together with very specific pieces before, during, and after. When did you notice that you were looking for this? What is the desire, other than just like, I want to gather people and I want pause? What was the thing that brought you to this place, to this decision or this question?
I mean, I think I've been looking for something in the way that a lot of us are looking for something. I really started thinking about this when I was in the car with some friends. We'd had a really like beautiful day. We'd gone to the beach and the sun was setting. It was just this like really beautiful highway coastal moment. And we started talking about New Year's resolutions and how none of us really like the idea of New Year's resolutions and this idea of like, I'm going to make myself better. I'm going to improve and blah, 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 blah. And then also talking about how yet at the same time, we all felt like there was something that we all wanted that we weren't getting from the way that we were living our lives and being on our phones all the time. I mean, we all talked about just like too much screen time, too much doom scrolling. And my friend made this really great point that it's harder to just say you're not going to do something. It's always better if you can think about what you're going to replace that with. That was sort of where the idea was born of like, how do I replace? It's not that I don't, it is that I do want to not live with sort of like the phone and the screen and the constant feeling like I should be doing something else. But what do I want to replace that with? Well, I want to replace it with something that feels fulfilling and meaningful and like time with wonderful friends and like doing the things that feel really important and special and like the way I want to spend my time.
I like this idea a lot of what am I going to build to replace it? I'm going to suggest, let's think about what we're going to build and let it take space in your life and see how the phone falls away rather than I'm going to do this to replace the phone. Does that difference make sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense.
Because when I hear you talking, I hear there was that highway moment. You were having a highway coastal moment when you were just felt life is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I felt when you were describing it. And then you thought, why aren't I having more of this? Why am I missing out? Why aren't these moments more common?
Mm-hmm.
And then the thought came, oh, because I'm doom scrolling. So connect back to that coastal highway moment. Can you describe, like, what are some of the things that were present there that you thought, I want more of this?
Yeah, the people, the being with beloved people. Also, their dog was there. Animals are also a part of the belovedness. I think also we were talking about something that wasn't the news. We were talking about something that wasn't our jobs, that wasn't, sadly, it wasn't gossip. Having the conversation about what do you want to do? I don't know. And it's not even that particular topic. It's just, I realize I spend a lot of time maybe having conversations that are about complaining or being scared or well-placed anxiety or things like that. And so having a conversation that's neither small talk nor doom and complain talk.
What is that? It's not small talk. It's not doom and complain talk. What is it? What kind of talk is that?
I mean, it's like it's what matters talk. What's important to us? Why is it important to us?
Is there something that I'm hearing there? I'm gonna suggest some words. This doesn't have to be it, but there's something in what I hear there. The word that I keep coming up with is like creation language. Like I am creating things, and we are creating ideas and plans and bonds, and it's not just chit chat. It's not talking about the weather or the news. It's talking about the things that we can do together, that our bond, that our friendship, that our connection can create.
I love that. Yeah.
It's language of union rather than language of separation.
Yes, I like the union rather than separation, or even union rather than critique or being critical.
Yeah. It's not gossip.
No, I mean, it could be later.
Right, but we're not gossiping about the neighbor. We're talking about the things that you and I can do together and what brings us together and what we love about each other and the plans we have and the ideas that we share. And
of what, it's not improvement. It's like the creating what you want to be and the world that you want it to be or the relationships that you want to be. Or like you use the metaphor of like growth or of gardening. I very much saw gardening when you were talking, but of like cultivation, actually, that's the word.
Yeah.
Cultivation.
What are the things that we're going to plant and how are we going to help water those things so that they grow in our inner gardens?
Aw. Or people could come over and help me with my actual garden because I'm a lazy gardener.
That could also be a ritual.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So I like this idea. You want your beloved people there. You want your animals. There's a rule. We don't talk about the news. We don't talk about jobs. We don't look at our technology. We don't look at the cell phone. Those are kept outside of the room. Having that in mind, what would be the parts for you? What does the beginning, then the meal, and then the ending look like?
It feels like there's like a calling in or a starting for whoever is there of like an official, maybe it's a like lighting of candles or a turning out of lights, a putting on of music or something that really signifies like a start time of now this is the mode that we're in.
I've been in a group where every week somebody in the group will bring a song they want to introduce to the group and play it, right? Or like a poem that they want to read to the group and read it. And there's a beginning, it sounds like. Keep going.
And yeah, and I don't know, I'm a big believer in feeding people. Like maybe that is the meal, the ritual is the meal. Like it is the like whatever that is that happens when people sit down together and share food together.
You serve the food and you sit around and you talk about the song you just played, the poem that you read. How do you encourage people around that table to talk about what matters and not to go back to the weather or to the news that they heard that morning or to divisive things?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, maybe there needs to be like a heads up or an agreement to anyone who's invited to the meal that this is what we're doing. And then I saw an email that I get, someone had a bunch of questions that you could ask at Thanksgiving dinner. But maybe there really are just like questions printed out and that people can take in the middle of a table, take a question, read it, and that's what people discuss.
Yeah. When I was at Harvard Divinity School, I had a classmate put together these dinners. They didn't happen every week. They happened like 3 or 4 times during the year. She called them soulful suppers. And we would all sit, we would all bring something to the meal. Mm-hmm. And then she would literally say, this is my question and this is what we're talking about today. And it was a topic that had to do with how do you guys envision creating more music in the world, or what do you think art? And she would just set the topic for the day. And we would have rich and really interesting conversations because the topic was set and it was very clear.
Yeah, I love that idea of just giving people the topic.
Yeah, right. And if you're creating a community around this, then you could say, I set the topic today. Next week it's you, and the next week it's you, and the next, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or you could just say, these are my dinners and I set the topic every time.
You come to my house, you discuss my topics, and then you garden afterwards. Welcome. Enjoy.
You're welcome. Yep, that's an option too. I like it. I would go to those dinners.
You're invited.
And how do we end? What's the ending piece?
That's such a good question. How do we end? My brain is like, you turn the lights back on and you blow out the candles and then it's done.
Sure. I wonder.
Before that?
Well, I wonder because this is such an important thing that you're creating, and the place where you're creating it from is really important. I wonder if there are words of thank you, like gratefulness, like thank you so much for the space, like somehow where like the ending is about being grateful for the people who came, for the space that you created, for the conversations that were had, somehow where you can acknowledge this is important and thank you all for being a part of it.
Yeah, I like that. A closing thank you.
And then you turn off the candles, you turn the light back on.
Say, get out.
And give everyone their phones.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, is this something that happens once a month? Does this happen once a week? Does this happen 4 times a year, like my friends' dinners? How are you feeling, visualizing, and intentioning it?
Yeah. When you said your friend did them a couple of times a year, that felt like, oh, that's a really doable thing. I feel attached to the idea of weekly, and I don't know if that's just a sort of like a built-in human thing. And also, if in the rare occasion that I decide to go out on a Saturday night, do I move it? I like weekly though.
Yeah.
Because I'm routine oriented, maybe.
Okay, so let's play with this weekly. Every Saturday night, you just mentioned Saturday, so every Saturday night, you would like to think that you can have this ritual, this dinner, this space. Is this a congregation? Is this a club? Is this something where like the same people come every week? Or is this something where every week you're going to invite different groups of people and sort of mix it up so that you can have these spaces with different communities? Or how do you envision it?
I mean, it feels like I need to do like little baby steps. Like I'm not going to jump into like a rotating cast. We're really lucky. My best friend and her family live next door to us. And we actually already do like some family meals together, but I feel like they would be people to invite into it already. And it's a fun challenge because like I have teenagers and she has a little kid. And so how do we, like, I want children to also be a part of it and to be invited into it and have it be a really expansive, I think, in that sense, space. And then it also feels like if there are, I don't know, friends in town or coworkers or things like that, I would like to open it up to that.
So that would be a place to start. The two families get together for the first month every Friday or Saturday, and you'll have to tell me what structure you come up with, but you light the candles and you read the poem or listen to the song, and then you have a meal, and Serena presents a conversation topic, and then you say thank you and turn off the candles or whatever the structure that you end up coming with. But at first it could be just the two families. And then slowly you start opening it up to coworkers or visiting family members or the friends from out of town or the friends who just don't live next door but live 3 blocks away, and start introducing them. Now, you mentioned, on the odd chance that I go out, how fixed is this secular but spiritual Sabbath? Does it happen every Saturday? If you go out, does it get canceled, or what happens?
Yeah, it feels weird to be like, oh, reschedule it for Wednesday. But also I go out so rare. I mean, I feel like it could just be a skip and then get back to it. I mean, maybe I start it and I skip it one week and I find that I really hated skipping it. That actually we do need to have Spiritual Thursday, or whatever we're going to call it, Sabbath Thursday, because it matters that much. But I mean, right now it feels like it's okay to say I'll try skipping it.
I'm going to take you back to the highway coastal moment. And the place where sort of you're saying this is coming from, or this desire or this conversation that sparked all of this, which has to do with reconnecting to life. And if for some reason Saturday you get invited out, what would it mean? Yes, I'll go out, but I'll make an effort while I'm out to connect to the energy that I'm trying to bring in to the dinners and to the space that I'm creating. Yeah.
I like that idea, to still do some element of ritual or connection or presence.
It's almost like, in a way, you're honoring what brought you here and not just saying, okay, skip, we'll do it Thursday, I'm going to go out. But you're going out knowing that you're still honoring that thing inside you that said, I want to be alive. Yeah,
I like that. It's not redoing it for the sake of checking it off. Like, oh, I do it every week, because that's where I get very in my little routine head. But instead of, I can still bring into what I'm doing. I can bring in this intention and the reason that I'm doing this. I can bring that into whatever I'm doing.
And then I would encourage you, rather than calling it, I don't know, spiritual Sabbath or secular but spiritual Sabbath, or find a word in that yearning, right? Like my friend called it soulful supper. What is the word that calls to what you're trying to create rather than to what you've seen out there?
Yeah, I really like that. First of all, I love to name something. But also, I really like the idea of moving it away from feeling like I'm trying to appropriate or pick up some little tiny part of someone else's culture and practice, and instead creating something or cultivating something.
Grow it in your garden.
Mal, you're like the only person that I will allow to say things like grow it in your garden in my life.
Let's keep it a secret. Beautiful. I'm really excited to see where this goes. I'm really excited for you to come back in a month or two and tell me how many people you've invited, what it's felt like, what you're feeling, what you're connecting to. But before we end this, let's put it on the calendar. When do you think you'll start?
I can start this Saturday. I don't have any plans.
Okay.
I told you I don't go out on Saturdays.
Okay, so this Saturday will be the first of these gatherings.
Yeah. Yes.
Can I just put like a smidge more of pressure on you.
Sure.
What do you think you might want to make the first conversation topic?
Well, I think like thinking about it, being maybe more kids than adults, maybe a more fun, imaginative question, like a prompt that invites everyone into imagining something. And I don't know what that is right now, but I think that's where I'm going with it.
Something about imagination. Something about, again, I hear you calling back to this again and again, but imagination is all about creation. And I'm going to encourage our listeners to leave comments with topics that they would talk about at one of your dinners, and maybe you'll be inspired.
Yes, I will steal them, but give credit. So I will cite you. I'll cite my sources.
This is very exciting. If I'm ever in your part of town, I will let you know, and I would love to participate.
Yes, you're invited. You have a standing invitation. Thank
you. I want to sit down, though. I don't want to be standing.
Oh, there it is. There's the malhumor.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being willing to come on the show and talk about something. I think this topic is very important for all of us to think about and to remember. How do we connect back to us, to our loved ones in a moment in history when technology is so available to disconnect us and when we want to disconnect because of everything that is going on around us? So an invitation to connect, I think, is important and is beautiful, and I think is definitely sacred. So thank you for bringing that to our show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for talking it through with me.
This has been The Real Question. Our show is funded through our Patreon at patreon.com/realquestionpod. If you're a regular listener, we would love your support. There are so many perks and so many fun things you get to do if you come see us at Patreon. For example, at $15 and up, you get to come once a month into a Zoom room with me where we get together and discuss all the questions that have been asked that month and how they apply to us and our life. It's a really fun group, it's a really fun space, and it's a really fun conversation. Another way you can support this show is by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Reviews are really important, and I would really appreciate to hear what you have to say. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Real Question Pod. And we are always looking for more guests. So go to our website, realquestionpod.com, and submit a question. Maybe we'll get to talk about it on the show. We love to shout out our BFF tier patrons, Renee Underhill, Becky Boo, Jenny Cruz, and Amanda Schramm. We are a Not Sorry production. Our executive producer is Vanessa Zoltan. We are edited and produced by Ariana Nettleman. Music is by Nick Bowl. We're distributed by Acast. And support for this show comes from the Fetzer Institute. Thank you to today's guests, Serena. I really enjoyed the question you brought. I really enjoyed thinking about a space that doesn't have to be religious, but where we can meet as friends, as family, and have a spiritual experience. True to her word, Serena had her first dinner this weekend. Her 5-year-old neighbor helped name the dinners, and they are now called Feast. So for her first feast, Serena asked the people at her table, if money and reality didn't matter, what gift would you give to each person at this table? I'll ask that to our listeners as well. If money and reality didn't matter, what gift would you give to the people closest to you? And thanks, as always, to our wonderful team. Julia Argy, Nikki Zoltan, AJ Yaramas, Anissa Ahmed, Danny Langley, Courtney Brown, Casper Turkile, and Stephanie Paulsell. I look forward to another question next week. I'll see you all there.